Hey guys, so all of these sounds were coming from the TC Electronic Plethora X5. We're gonna look into this pedal device today. The guys at TC Electronic released a couple of days ago the firmware update, the 1.3.6, which is the latest update. And full disclaimer, because I want to be transparent on the channel, they sent me this Plethora X5 to test with the new firmware update, but this is not a sponsored video, so that means, guys, all in this video is going to be my 100% honest opinion. Now we're gonna see what's in the Plethora X5, what's not in the Plethora. We're gonna hear a few examples of sounds that you can get from this pedal device. We're gonna dig into the firmware update and we're gonna understand whether this is the right pedal for you. Let's start by saying that in the Plethora you find some of the best pedals by TC Electronic, the world famous Toneprint pedals. You won't find any gain related pedals, so no overdrive, no distortions. From my understanding, this is because TC Electronic currently only has analog overdrive, so they don't have a digital Toneprint for overdrive and distortion that they can put into a unit like this. But maybe this is something that's going to be added in the next future. So what pedals, what effects can you find in the Plethora? Let's get into the board here where we are now in the play mode. We're just going to switch into edit, where you guys can see that there are really many pedals that you can choose from chorus to compressor, obviously the flashback delay, which is really famous, and so many other kind of modulation, reverbs, tremolos. You know, there is a looper, a noise gate, an octave, and there is also this alter ego vintage echo, which is the new delay. It's a new addition. We're gonna test it in a minute. This is a new addition in the firmware of this year. You can also bypass any of these and have an empty position, or you can also get into the effects loop that we're gonna talk about in a minute, and then you can get access to awesome settings. I'm going to show you a few of my favorites. Now switching back into play, you are now in the first board. Guys, there are so many boards that you can plan and program and bring with you at your gigs or keep at home when you record. I believe it's up to 127 boards that you can create, and each board can contain up to 5 of these pedals. But what's more is the Toneprint technology by TC Electronic, which I've used for years, I must say. And essentially what that means is each of these pedals can be assigned to a preset, up to 75 different presets made by the world's best guitarists. And if you're not happy with any of those, through their app, you can actually make your own. So again, in the Plethora, you will find all time-based and modulation effects. So you can switch boards either through this switch, doing this essentially, or you can program in the settings, something that I did, the Plethora to essentially quickly triple click one of these 2 buttons and switch the board through these 2 buttons. So here is how you do it. You triple click very quickly and you go into the different boards like that. As you can see, each board has a name. You can rename them, you can duplicate them and do all that kind of stuff. Now guys, for each board, the effects go left to right by default. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But one of the most requested features from the users since last year was actually being able to swap the order in a way that you actually find them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so right to left. Now the reason for this is because some people, when they set a pedal board, they actually set the signal chain from right to left, meaning that the guitar goes here and then all of the pedals in this order, and you go through the output maybe on the left hand side. So if you want to maintain that, and we're gonna see that this is one of the possible use of the Plethora within a pedal board with other pedals, you may find helpful having the signal chain going right to left. You can change that in the settings very easily. I kept it this way because I'm just using now the Plethora on its own. I will explain the signal chain, and anything else I want to use, I will be using it through the effects loop. So overall, I don't mind. I actually like the idea of having my signal chain left to right. It's very easy to read. Okay. So in the first board that you guys find when you buy your Plethora, this is a default board. Again, you can customize it in so many ways. You find a compressor on the first pedal. Then the second one is going to be actually empty, or I should say it's not really empty, it is actually an effects loop, because one of the features of this Plethora is that you can actually connect other pedals that you may own into the effects loop and have it in this unit. Okay, so in this way there's nothing going on because this is actually off right now, but I do have a pedal, an overdrive, a tube screamer, a mini tube screamer connected to the send and return of the unit. In this way I have it in my effects loop. Okay, so the way it works right now is compressor going into my tube screamer. If I turn it on this way through the effects loop, then there is a chorus, a delay and a reverb. Before shooting this video I just messed around a little bit with the settings of the delay just to have a longer decay and a little bit with the reverb. So everything is off and this is my sound. Okay, now my signal chain is going from the guitar into the Plethora, and from the Plethora you can go through to your amp. So essentially the Plethora can work by itself. Right now I'm not really going to a physical amp. I'm going into a 2-note torpedo cab amp, which essentially is a preamp and also a cab simulator, so everything is in there like if you're using your amp, but this allows you to have an ampless setting. Now I'll be starting by adding the compression. Then I'm going to add the modulation and time effects. Okay, and right now I've got that ambient sound that I was using at the beginning. There is a chorus, there is a delay and a reverb engaged. But as I said, I also have my tube screamer, my mini tube screamer connected to the send and return. So if I turn this on, now I will hear the tube screamer. This essentially is just to say that you can use this with any other kind of effects in the loop that you have in the second unit. Obviously you can swap this to any other position you like. Well, another thing that you guys may wonder is whether we do have a tuner here, and TC Electronic makes one of the best tuners. I think I do have something like 3 polytunes by TC Electronic, and obviously they did include a tuner here. I think it's the Unitune, which you can get access to in 2 different ways, either pressing down this, you know, for a few seconds and you get into the tuner mode. Obviously you can tune it. Let's actually tune it. But if you like, you can also get access to the tuner by triple clicking very quickly the button number 5. This is something that I set in the settings of the unit. Doing this and you're back into the tuner mode, and then clicking any button you're back into the play. And let's have a look at how many things you can change into each of these pedals. So if I go in edit mode, you guys select which pedal you are interested in, which position I should say. So if I go to the number 3, for instance, there is a chorus, number 4 is a delay, and you see that you can set the delay, the feedback, the effects level, and here you can choose which preset you like. As we said guys, the TC Electronic Toneprint technology is available for these pedals, so you can choose between up to 75 presets made by your favorite guitarist, and you can also make your own. Right now there is a tape delay which is made by quarter notes plus 8 notes, or dotted 8 notes I should say, and this is what we were listening to before. But if I swap to another pedal, obviously you can see guys the other settings that you can change through the knobs here. And if I go back into play mode and I realize that, you know what, I want to swap the position of delay and chorus, you guys know that if you have to do that in a physical board, that means swapping the pedals, the connections, you know, the power supply and all of that kind of stuff. What you can do really is just doing this, and they are in the opposite position. They just swapped. Okay, and if I want to get them back, I keep pressing them down and I'm back into the original position. I found this really cool when I learned it. Now, depending on how you guys set this in the settings of the unit, you can get access to a secondary function of the footswitch, which by default is in the mash technology by TC Electronic, where you can add a sort of expression to each of these pedals. But for instance, for delay, I've set that into a tap tempo. And all you have to do once this is selected, once you have the tap tempo enabled, hold this down and it will show you the tap tempo, either in BPM or milliseconds. That's another thing that you can change in the settings. And if you want to change the tap tempo, you keep pressing. You can also connect an expression pedal, and through the settings you can decide what the expression pedal is going to do with each of these effects in the unit, as well as you can select what the hot knobs are going to do. So for each of these pedals you can decide that one of these knobs is going to do something special. Another thing that I've been using for years, and it's by TC Electronic Electronic is the Ditto looper. And you guys can have a looper in any of these boards. So the way it works, let's go back to edit mode. I'm gonna select, for instance, the number 3, the foot switch number 3, where there is currently a Corona chorus, and I'm gonna switch that into a looper by choosing really which effect I like. And then I select this, and now if I go back into play mode, look at that. There are 2 tapes here. So if we want to see how this works, it's very easy, guys. And you can overdub and use all of the features of the Ditto looper, okay guys? Now another interesting thing about the Plethora is that it actually contains a cup simulator. I tried this, but I haven't used it very much because, as I said, I'm connected now to my Torpedo, so I'm getting the cup simulation from there. But if you guys want to go straight into your PA system or audio interface, you can go through one of the cup sims in the settings. So we have seen now a few things that you guys can find in the Plethora. So what is it that you guys can't find in the Plethora? Well, you don't find an amp modeling, for example. You don't find a preamp. You don't find anything related to gain, like overdrive and distortions. These are things to keep in mind to understand how to use this unit. So that being said, there are a few scenarios that we can look into. Let's look into 3. I could go straight with my guitar into the Plethora, into my amp, or in this case I'm using my Torpedo, okay? Or you guys could have any other kind of effect into the effects loop and build an actual pedalboard around the unit. Or for instance, I could move my preamp and cup sim, my Torpedo, essentially in the effects loop and have it in my second slot, which is right now the second foot switch, where I've got my effects loop. And all this is just because you can play around with the different order of the effects into the signal chain. If you guys want, you can also connect the Plethora into the looper of your amp and use the 4-cable method. Now, a cool thing that I want to show you, it's an aesthetic thing, is that I actually changed all of the icons into dots, I would say, with colors, which I really love. But by default, they actually come as lines, and I will show you this into the edit mode, going all the way down into the settings. You guys see how easy it is to navigate the settings. You click on global, and then you go to display settings. There is colors here where you can choose between off or dots or lines. As I said, I've chosen dots, but you could go to lines, and essentially this will look like this, with all of the lines underneath, which is how it comes from the factory by default. Now let's dig into the firmware update, the 1.3.6, which is the latest firmware update. I'm gonna mention a few of the features of this update, and then I'm gonna leave in the description all of the others for you guys to read. Now, the number one thing is that there is a new delay effect. So why don't we go here and we go in edit mode, we select the slot number 4, the foot switch number 4, where I've got my delay, and we go all the way down to the newest addition, which is a vintage echo, and we hear how it sounds with these parameters by default. I must say that I already like it. However, you guys may have to work around the settings to get the best of this pedal. Another really important feature of this update is that you guys can go in the settings and change the order right to left into left to right and vice versa of these pedals. This was something that many requested. There are a few other changes to the graphics, there is a new buffer mode and a few other bug fixes and a reduced latency on MIDI. Now let's build a new board. Let's work around sounds more into a tremolo vibe. So all I want to do is going into edit mode, get access to the switch number 3 where my Corona chorus is, go all the way down to find my tap tremolo, work around the settings, save it. Now I also want to go into my 5th slot where my reverb is, and as I said previously, I want to use a spring reverb. Back into play mode, and now I've got my tap tremolo and I've got my spring reverb. Now I want to show you another sound by going to the board number 10 that you find by default, which is a very ambient sound, and it goes like this. Let's have a look at the pedals. There is a pitch shifter, a compressor, 2 delays. One is with a tap tempo and the other one is with the mash function, and then there is a reverb at the end of your chain. Okay guys, and now a few final considerations. Is the Plethora the right pedal for you? Who is this for? Who is this not for? Let's think about the price first. In the UK, I believe you can find it between 300 and 400 pounds. But keep in mind that each of the Toneprint legendary pedals by TC Electronic are about 80 to 100 pounds. So with the price of 3 or 4 of them, you don't only get 5 of them, but you actually get all of the pedals that you can swap in the board and create your own board, which could contain an incredible amount of pedals. And it's not just because you have, I don't know, 15 effects available, but it's also because within the same board, you could have, for example, 2 delays or 2 reverbs. And think about doing that with physical effects. That would be incredibly more expensive. Then the other thing is that it's really easy to use. The first feeling that you get from this unit is that it's really solid and really made with the user in mind. Think for instance about how you can easily swap pedals within the same board, or how you can save the board itself, or how you go into the edit mode and you can adjust every parameter for each of the pedals. Now, for all of these reasons, I think that the Plethora is the right pedal for you if you are building a pedal board around this unit. Because as we said, it's gonna give you all of the time-based and modulation effects, so you just need to include a preamp or anything that you are interested in terms of gain, so an overdrive, a distortion, depending on your style and what you actually use. Then you can get all of the delays and the modulations from the Plethora. You also get the cab simulation if you are interested in that as well. So you can create an entire board around this unit. So who is not the Plethora for? I think that if you're looking for an amp modeling, all-in-one unit where you can find everything from distortions to delays, preamps and all that, you can't use this unit, simply because this unit doesn't even want to do all of that. So in other words, don't think about this as a competitor to Kemper or Line 6 Helix or Fractal and all of those units. These are completely different products. So if you are after that, if you're after something that contains overdrives and distortions, this is not the right unit for you. But if you want to build a pedal board around this, I think this is really fantastic. So my overall opinion, after using it for a few days and messing around with the settings and create all of the automations to make it really convenient to use, it is really a good feedback, because I love all of the sounds. I've been using TC Electronic for years. It does exactly what it's designed for, and the level that you get is really high. Now guys, I'm gonna leave you with one final example using this Plethora. Let me know if you have any questions about the unit. Let me know what you think about this video, and if you'd like to see more videos like this.